Okay, looks like we're live now, Ruth. So I want to welcome Ruth. But first of all, obviously, I'm going to introduce myself, just in case if a few of you don't know who I am. Right, so Lorraine Gleeson. I'm a hypnotherapy trainer, and I opened my training school back in 2011. And I think it was last year, Ruth and I, we were at a McTimoney chiropractic conference, because we've both been invited up because, you know, all these healthcare things are all good for us. And Ruth and I, we had a little stand opposite each other.
Yeah.
And of course, when everyone was off listening to different talks, Ruth and I kept chatting. And Ruth had this amazing banner. And I kept reading it was all to do with pain control, get rid of your wrinkles. And it was all this magic stuff. And as we kept talking, Ruth started telling me all about this wonderful, my visual aids, this wonderful light therapy thing. And I had to turn it on. Sorry, I'll put it because it's sort of it's always got to play with it. And at the time, I had for years, many years, I have suffered with rashes, and I know it comes on for stress. Years ago, the rashes were always on my hands, which were totally unsightly. I've been to consultants, I've had appointment after appointment, and unfortunately, the medical profession didn't know. They give me those terrible cortisone creams, and basically nothing worked. And I had hypnotherapy, because that's what I do. And I work a lot with healthcare and pain control and everything else. Well, the hypnotherapy helped, but it moved the rashes from under my arms. So it was more discreet. So it didn't look like I had some sort of lurgy. And, Ruth's little thing was all up there, and it was talking about how it heals everything and kill everything else. And I sat there and I thought, as the conference went on, and you had a special offer on at the time, and I thought, what appealed to me was to get rid of all your crinkles here, because it helps with all that skincare and everything else. And I sat there, and Ruth is so knowledgeable, which you're going to hear, so knowledgeable on this light therapy, and has so many wonderful stories to share, that I bought the unit. And with my rashes under the arm, it was there. As stress, I suspect it was psychological stress, because I was going to be doing a presentation and everything else. And where I'd got to is I was taking antihistamines, and I found that if I put an ice pack on it and I used coconut oil, it stopped it from itching, and it wasn't too bad, but the rash was still there. But of course, Ruth and I, all the rubbish summers we've had, it was sweltering, absolutely boiling. I'm in a hotel, and so I couldn't have an ice pack. So I was literally going to bed, and it's heat, and I'm thinking, oh, I've got nothing to lose. I can't put an ice pack on. This arm is absolutely itching to bits. So I always call it, I shoot myself, because it goes beep, beep, and you hold the light on, and it's timed, and it goes beep, beep, and it's off. And I went to sleep. And I woke up the next morning. Well, Ruth saw me the next morning. I was blown away. Not only had the rash gone, I mean, it had gone overnight. That blew my mind, that it just went. And it must be over a year ago now. And on the
I think it was actually only this June.
Only this June. Yeah. And since then, and anybody that knows me, because I'm so passionate about what I do, I'm always stressed. I'm not stressed, but psychologically, my mind is. And I know when I'm stressed, because this rash used to come up. Well, now nothing. And on the very odd occasion, I will feel a little bit of an itch. And all I do is get my light therapy, shoot it. And I can honestly say, since I've met you, I have not had that rash at all. And I'm not having to put creams. And I certainly, because I didn't like using the steroid creams, because we all know they're not good for us. And it's just really, really nice. And I've been away on holidays, whereas normally heat will bring the rash up. I'm not taking antihistamines anymore. It was just amazing. And I use it as part of my self-care, not just for my rash, my self-care routine, 2 or 3 times a week. When I'm lying in bed, I do, because it stimulates all your collagen. Ruth, I've even taken to do it on my face now because I lie in bed, I watch TV, and I've got that, and I'm just relaxing. And I always say I'm shooting myself. And because I have found it so useful, it helps with pain control. If anyone comes around with a headache, I say, "Oh, do you want me light therapy?" And I'll whack the light on their head, and amazingly, their headaches have gone. Other people I've used with a little bit of pain control, and I contacted Ruth, and because I'm so passionate about us all looking after ourselves and do good things for ourselves, and asked Ruth if she would join us to share her wealth of knowledge of the light therapy. So it's over to you, Ruth.
Right. Well, thank you, Lorraine, ever so much for giving me this opportunity to kind of showcase my light therapy. But I'm actually into not just this type of light therapy, but I love all colours, as we had a conversation about that, didn't we?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been my background is that I've been involved commercially in the electrotherapy industry sector, which is very niche, or electrophysical industry sector. So these are medical devices which are used predominantly, I suppose, in rehabilitation, treatment, recovery from injuries, and perhaps in other countries, surgery, wound healing. So yeah, electrotherapy is a fantastic therapeutic approach to help facilitate healing of the body, because we are electromagnetic beings. So you can, your audience may be familiar with the idea of using TENS, or maybe therapeutic ultrasound. There's all sorts of devices that are using electromagnetic. There's pulse magnetic things that people wear, and so yeah, I've been working in that field since the mid-90s when my kiddies were tiny, and then by chance I got into a conversation with one of my customers out in South Africa, and that they were an engineering team, and they gave me the heads up about them working on a modernized red light therapy or low level light therapy device, but it wasn't using what was mostly the type of light systems back then, which were low level laser devices used by health professionals, also to heal injuries, tissue, especially post-surgical wounds and that sort of thing. But really for the layman, you can't mess around with even those sorts of machines. They're not suitable for home use. So we've been fortunate in a way with the Americans that the US have done quite a phenomenal amount of studies on the different light, which we now know is everything has gone to light emitting diode technology. But this is different to the LEDs that maybe you have on your Christmas tree. It's higher powered LED technology, and they're programmable, and they can get specific wavelengths and that sort of thing. So yeah, that conversation was literally a light bulb moment for me.
An LED light bulb moment.
Yes. Yeah. Because it opens up the opportunity to expand using a therapeutic modality to more people that need help with healing. And because with electrotherapy or electrostimulation, those systems can't be used on people with heart conditions and or certainly not with pacemakers and that sort of thing. So those things are contraindicated. Whereas when you're using light as an energy, you don't have that issue. And the light emitting diode technology, because it's so much safer for the eyes, that was the issue with laser. You see, with laser systems, you've got to be really, really careful, because even the cheapest ridiculous laser toy that people can go out and buy for their cats, for example, you shine those sorts of things into people's eyes and you can seriously do some damage. So the LED technology, okay, it's, you know, early days, it wasn't as favoured by the professional using the modality as a whole, but it makes it so much more viable for home use. And over the, you know, the just over 2 decades of this progression of light emitting diode technology for in the medical device sector, you know, the technology has improved. So it's pretty comparable to some of the laser sort of cluster machines that are used in clinics for, you know, if you've got a sportsman that's got a ruptured tendon, or, you know, all sorts of ligament issues, and these are the sorts of devices that would be used to actually.
So when you actually use the device, you've got the light therapy. What's it actually? Because to me, I just, you know, I put it on and I just put it on me, and there's a red light. So what's it actually doing?
Yeah, well, first of all, there's all sorts of light therapies. You know, there's a number of you know, there's different types of light therapy that do exist, that a lot of your audience are probably familiar with the idea of the blue light therapy that is used for jaundiced babies in hospitals. That's been around since the 1960s, because it helps break down that bilirubin build up in the body and helps the body to detox in a natural way. There's UV systems that are used in dermatology for, you know, even for very, very severe psoriasis and dermatitis and things like that, acne. And, you know, there's the effects of light across the visible spectrum and invisible spectrum. You know, we know that we are receptive to all this light, and it has a beneficial effect. I mean, obviously with various wavelengths of UV, you know, they recognise that there's harmful, especially when you overdo it, but UVB light, you do need a certain level of dose of that to top up your vitamin D, and your body synthesizes that with a substance that you have in your skin, a cholesterol-like substance. So, you know, the thing is that there are different light therapies, but this specifically that you've invested in, Lorraine, is red light. Well, the layman's term is red light therapy, one of the types of devices that delivers red light therapy. The scientific term for it now, the consensus that has been adopted, is photobiomodulation. So it doesn't just stimulate, but it modulates processes in the body to help facilitate this healing or provide pain relief. But the primary mechanism of these wavelengths that have been scientifically researched, the phenomenon was discovered even back in 1995 by a Russian scientist. So the key mechanism that is firing up your body's healing ability is a stimulation of a receptor that kicks in during cellular respiration and binds with oxygen molecules to essentially pump out more cellular energy. So when there's increased cellular energy, especially when you've got perhaps mitochondrial dysfunction and that your cellular respiration takes place within the mitochondria, which is in, you know, cells throughout your body. It's the powerhouse of your cell. And when cellular energy is fired up, like put in, I often use car analogies because my other half is a bit of a petrol head, and you know, and it's like putting a set of jump leads on the body, and it just fires things up, and especially when things are not working as they should, the body systems are sluggish, and you know, you've got inflammation happening, like maybe what happens with you, Lorraine, with your, and you know, you get
happened in the past.
Yeah, because stress responses cause physiological issues.
I know.
You know, so yeah, there's scientifically proven physiological benefits of these particular wavelengths of light, which are in the visible red and also going into the invisible red, the infrared. So there's a range of infrared. What are becoming quite popular now are infrared saunas, where you get a lot of, they're amazing for detoxing, but obviously you get really hot, and you know, you can't spend a lot, you know, too long. But a lot of people that need to you know, are in recovery and or you know, want to just use them as part of you know, to help your body detoxify, and in recovery from you know, illnesses and things like that, or just to generally help them keep health, you know, just to keep healthy. Their infrared saunas are becoming very popular. But obviously the infrared sauna, it's the far infrared, and that's where we get the heat from the sun, whereas the device that we've got here, that the infrared light, the wavelength, is cold infrared or near infrared. So the actual effects in the body aren't from any thermal properties. They're like they're photochemical. And anyway, there are various mechanisms that are still being identified by the academics and scientists and researchers across the world, but it is actually the most researched of all the photomedicine modalities, and yet, especially in the UK, many people don't know about it. It's such a shame, because what we have got now are well documented dose guidelines. So when I say dose, that means that, you know, there needs to be a level of dose applied onto the body to get that physiological effect. So for instance, if you're using it for skin irritation, collagen, well, and it's actually been used for quite a lot more years in the aesthetic and the beauty sector, certainly in this country, more than clinically in the mainstream clinical world. It's really not even acknowledged. No. And yet we've got probably 5 decades worth of research in the application of red and near infrared light, which facilitates all this natural healing response of the body. And also one of the effects that has been very well documented are the pain relief effects as well. So yeah, going back to the main mechanism in this kind of increased cellular energy from, you know, applying a reasonable level of dose onto the body where they've compromised cell activity, you know, there's damaged cells, and then there's inflammation. It fires up all sorts of cellular reactions and messengers and signaling in the body, and it it just helps with all that natural healing process. And in many cases where you've got physiological issues with sluggish healing, it can really speed things up, especially as we get older. We're not so circulation might not be so good, or if you've got conditions like diabetes where you've got impaired healing, you're vulnerable to nerve dysfunction, diabetic neuropathy, or you just use it, it can be used post surgery to be part of the normal wound management regime. But sadly, in this country, it's just not, they're just not actually acknowledging it in the clinical field. They are in the private practice sector, as I say, in aesthetic medicine, cosmetic surgery, like breast reconstruction, but they've probably got machines, bigger machines that they use in the practice or the clinics. But the message that I really try and get across to people is to try and see these beneficial wavelengths of light in the same way as nutrients in food. Treat these beneficial wavelengths as a nutrient, and it's a little enough an approach. It's not once in a blue moon. You don't necessarily get the same sort of results as you get, Lorraine. I mean, you're obviously very responsive to one dose when your skin flares up.
Yeah,
but
still every day, every day I do the light therapy under my arms just to ensure nothing comes back.
Yeah, well, that is the best way, honestly, to do it. If you can afford to invest in one and have a home, have it at home.
This is a lot cheaper than all the creams I was buying and everything else that I was putting on it. I don't need to now.
Yeah.
So because it's great. I just plug it in, a little USB, and it just charges up, and I just sit in bed. And you mentioning healing things. I don't know if I told you, Ruth, but I came off my mountain bike.
That's right. Yes, you did. Yes. You came off your mountain bike.
Yes, at 62, I had stitches for the first time in my life. I felt so embarrassed because all my elbow was split open, and it was, it wasn't actually to the bone. My son, who was with me, thought it was to the bone, but around your muscle, there's that little white sac thing.
Yeah.
So that's what he thought was the bone, and went down the hospital and obviously stitched it up, and it was literally opened. That it had to be, each stitch had to be done individually to put I am sorry if any of you squeamish here, because I'm quite squeamish, and no, I've not got photos of the cut because I'm not into it. My son did say, do I want a photo? I said, I'd rather not. So if you are squeamish, I do apologise. But apparently my son sat there going, ooh, watching me being stitched. They had to take each bit of skin and patch it back together, do one stitch and another. And it was all across my elbow. So if you ever...
they actually stitched it, because sometimes they use this glue now, don't they?
He actually, because it was such a serious accident, I couldn't have the radiography doctor. Very nicely, the head doctor stitched it. You couldn't glue it because where I came off a mountain bike, it was absolutely full. And they had to, he said it, and he did say, they said, don't you glue this, because if they'd have glued it, and there was any rubbish inside, I could have ended with gangrene.
Yeah.
So there were these individual stitches, and I still had the guts, which I was very tentative, but every night I would carefully put this light on there. After 7 days, I had the stitches out, and this is what the medical profession are exactly like. And the nurse that took my stitches out, because I'd been using this, actually I used it twice a day for 7 days, because I remember you telling me these wonderful horse stories of their wounds.
Yeah.
So I used to take my bandage off and I used to go like that. And when she took the stitches out, 7 days after this incident, she went, oh, she said, this is healing rather well. And I said, well, yes, I think it's where I'm using light therapy. She said, oh, no. It was where the doctor stitched it up so well. So I was dismissed. and the bizarre thing, within 2 weeks, it was, I would say twice a week now, I still actually I light therapy just on this elbow. And I have now had a look, and you can barely see a scar.
Well, that I mean, it was the wound healing effect that was the first. Well, it was an accidental experiment that happened back in the late 1960s by a Hungarian physician who was trying to see if he could zap cancer cells in rodents. He was trying to replicate an experiment that an American scientist had done with a high strength laser. But the experiment that he was wanting to carry out, it didn't have any effect on these poor rodents that had been injected with cancer cells. But the group, they always have a control group in these experiments. But so the story is that what was observed is in the group of rodents that were treated with this ruby light. This ruby, it was a self-built laser machine. Instead of being a high-powered destructive laser, it was a low-level laser, which he found out later. But what he observed was that the rodents treated with the laser healed a lot quicker than the group that didn't have the laser. Mm-hmm. So then they thought, oh yeah, what's going on here? And it was a few years later that this Russian scientist that discovered what was happening with this mechanism in the mitochondria. She researched many types of light over 20 years, all colors, and trying to establish the depth of the light, that sort of thing. And it was finally her discovery of how it fires up this process, or the end of cellular respiration, with the firing up of or pumping out of more cellular energy. So we're still discovering mechanisms now, but because the situation globally is that we've got well-documented dose guidelines, even for our little machines here, for things like any kind of wound healing, any sort of musculoskeletal injury, trauma, and pain relief. So, there's generic kind of dose guidelines that have been posted up by the World Association in this field, and it really helps manufacturers actually, and also practitioners that are integrating it into a professional practice. But it's really helped the job along with some of the more affordable pieces of kit that are coming onto the market for home use now. So, if people do a little bit of digging, they can make sure that what they're buying is going to do what it says on the tin, as far as helping when you have got injuries or you have got wounds, that it is going to actually help with.
Yeah, because I know when Shelley was
a decent dose, because it's like anything, it is somewhat dose dependent. And when you're in a bad way, sort of maybe in hospital, you just had surgery, like you, Lorraine, having fallen off your bike. Yeah. Or, I mean, my partner, he's a veteran cyclist, and he's had some mighty crashes, I tell you, broken ribs, collarbone, the lot, gravel rash, and he's been treated with the red light therapy. And in the sports world, that's the thing. You see, you get a top elite level sports professionals they will get access to all this stuff because the private physios know about it, or the care team they will know. They will get everything thrown at them, including this sort of stuff, just actually bathing in it now, because they've got, I told you, Lorraine, didn't I, know what exists now. You've got whole body, like sunbed size red light therapy beds, and there are some centres across the country that are investing in them. Absolutely fantastic for people who've got chronic conditions, even, I don't know, MS and or fibromyalgia, really in a bad way, and they can go and bathe in it. But with elite level athletes, they just bathe in it to fire up all the mitochondria, all their muscles, get their muscles as working as best they can. And if they're competing or if they're having quite intense training regimes, their body, the energy in their body is second to none, and they need that little bit of assistance, especially if they're competing at, like, for the Olympics or world level. It's fractions of a difference in performance or recovery if they're doing repeated races or any kind of or even in I think in the strengthening type sports or the endurance type sports. It will certainly help the body to repair from micro tears that happen with intense exercise and with delayed onset muscle soreness and that sort of thing, because it helps with all the detox process. So
it's like magic.
Well, it's just a phenomenal discovery. There's a guy in the States who's a personal trainer, really fit guy called Ari Whitten, and he's written the book The Ultimate Guide to Red Light Therapy, and he promotes red light panel systems, and there's various sites that you can go on that do comparisons. But yeah, people can buy panel systems for their homes now, because you wouldn't necessarily be able to afford one of the big full body systems because they're thousands of pounds. But the big sports clubs and can afford them, and some of the the holistic clinics, like chiropractic clinics or osteopathy or I was looking online, and there's a specialist eye centre down in London. They've invested in one as well, as using it for this type of light therapy, red light therapy. There's a licensed system for macular degeneration now. And when people are having injections in their eyes to help slow down the deterioration of macular degeneration, there is a licensed red light therapy system or photobiomodulation system that helps to even reverse in some cases when they've got early diagnosed AMD. It's actually helping to restore some of the damage.
And it's also used on animals as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's where our journey in the UK with these small devices, because my one is actually an animal one, a vet care one, because I share it with my geriatric cat.
Yes,
it's 19. We were only allowed to sell the vet care machine, which is the one licensed for animals. That started 10 years ago, because it takes so long for medical device certification to get to come through. And I have to take my hat off to the guys in South Africa that carried out. They were just determined to get it through the medical CE, and so that means that it can be used in a professional setting.
Yes.
Although it's essentially designed, and the concept of it is for home use application, getting a medical CE to make a clinical claim is the key, in all honesty, you know, because then, you know, you can get them used in by all sorts of different professionals in aesthetic medicine or clinical wound healing or physio, you know, all the hands-on therapy and rehab sort of therapies. And so, you know, they might use the bigger, more sophisticated machines in a clinical setting or a professional health setting, but then they know that the best results are when the patients, clients can, or even if it's just literally a wellness regime, if they can go home and they can carry on using it, and that's the best way to really embrace this form of light therapy, is to use it little and often.
And you can use it on any part of your body you want.
Yeah. There's only a couple of precautions, in all honesty. The normal ones, you know, like don't. It's best not to apply it onto any diagnosed area where there's a tumour already discovered. However, in the last few years, there's been a discussion paper that's been published. I think I can't remember the name of the magazine or the journal, but what is being really discussed amongst the researchers and academics, and there's more papers coming out, is how this type of light therapy can really help to reduce the severity of side effects in radiation therapy patients. So obviously with radiation there's side effects which are very nasty, very painful, and the paper goes, I think it's looked at studies on about 6 different nasty side effects in radiation therapy, and the conclusions even now are that you applying regular red light therapy or photobiomodulation for that patient throughout while they're receiving the radiation therapy will reduce the pain that they'd experience and reduce opioid use as well, which is, you know, it's the opioid issue is a real problem, and they must try and get that. They know they must try and get the prescribing of that down as much as possible. So that's the thing. It's a therapeutic approach that can be used alongside those quite acute kind of medical treatments that it doesn't interfere with medication, and in some cases when you're using more holistic things, it can enhance the penetration of good creams certainly in with our skincare regime. You're using good facial products, for example.
Of course I do.
Or if you're into aromatherapy, so it can enhance the effects of those products as well in combination. But the anti-aging process is constant, so you have to that's why you kind of have to have one at home rather than go back to a beauty salon to have it done.
Yes. One of the things I've been asked, do you always have to put it on the skin, or can you go through clothing?
It won't go through clothing unless it's transparent, but you wouldn't have transparent clothing necessarily. In a clinical situation where you've say, got a dressing on, which is, not a hydrogel dressing, because I don't know if those are used clinically, but a hydrogel, like those blister plasters, it might penetrate through that sort of substance. But if it's an opaque dressing, it's still beneficial, far more beneficial, to apply doses around the edge of where the dressing is. And because you can't necessarily get right to where maybe the actual wound is, you might need to, might be useful to just double dose on those outer areas. But the thing is, the body's really clever and because this
we do have a question come up, Ruth. There's someone asking a question. Here we are. Is there any research you are aware of that has looked at use of these people who have had skin cancer? You mentioned something about
well, that was that experiment was actually to see if the type of light, because he thought the light he was using was high intensity light that could actually get rid of the tumors. It was a guy called Andre Mester. But in skin cancer, there's a different light therapy, which is it's not recognized as photobiomodulation, but it's called photodynamic therapy, called PDT, and that has been highly successful for skin melanomas. But because cancer cells aren't considered or haven't been seen to be receptive to these light wavelengths in the same way as normal reasonable normal cells are, they've got those receptors in, but cancer cells haven't got those receptors in. So what happens with this photodynamic therapy is that they have to inject the melanoma with a photoreceptive dye, and then they put on a painless red light patch or apply a red light device onto that area where the dye has gone in, and the dye absorbs the energy from the light to such an extent that it increases, I think it increases the temperature of that area. It makes it quite intense, although the light itself isn't it's not like an IPL, intense pulse light, that gets rid of hair and tattoos. It's still cold, but the photoreceptive dye absorbs the energy, so it heats that area up and it kills the melanoma. So that's where, if you have got any listeners that have tackling that sort of thing, it's the successful light therapy is photodynamic therapy.
Brilliant, thank you. Now, we've been chatting about all of these, and we've been saying you can use it for skin things, we can use it for pain, we can use it for sport. You've been showing your one up, and I've been showing mine. Mine's a sport one, yours is a cat one. So what different ones are there, and what's the difference of my one to yours?
Well, there are actually, between yours and mine, there isn't a difference apart from the licensing.
And mine's a prettier colour.
Well, yeah. This is like I suppose, an olive green.
Yeah, mine's the blue.
So there's no difference with the light wavelengths or the way the power, the delivery of the power of the machine.
Yeah.
But Lorraine's one, your one, is licensed as a medical device because it's for a person. We're not allowed to sell a machine that can be applied on both animals and humans.
So technically, if I had a cat or a dog, I could use it because there's no difference. Now, I did notice as well, you had one for skin. There was about a foot. There was
Yeah, there's five different models in the family of Photizo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the brand name is Photizo, Photizo. Our social media pages are Photizo UK, because we're the UK distributor. And yeah, so there's 5. So the sport one that you've got, Lorraine, and the animal one, they are the same level of dose. There's one which is strong, got a stronger level of dose. So instead of being on for 31 seconds for each dose, it's on for 41 seconds for a dose, because that one is licensed really for chronic pain. So for conditions that really aren't going to get better, arthritis, joint degeneration, maybe.
Well, the difference is the length of the dose is
the length of time. That is the only difference, or the licensing of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, if people are tackling pain conditions that just seriously need management and aren't likely to get better, so you've got.
And what's that one called? That's the chronic.
That's for chronic pain.
And what's it? Oh, and I think it's actually called pain relief.
It's called pain relief.
Yes.
Pain relief, and that's a bright green colour on our website. And the other medical that has a medical CE. The other medical device is called the skincare model, and that's a bright pink colour. And that dose is only on for, or each dose is only 16 seconds, because when it's an open wound situation, you don't need such a strong dose. So yeah, that's also certified as a medical device for wounds.
Yes.
All sorts of wounds and skin trauma, any inflamed tissue, skin, so you can use it on, psoriasis, and they'll help certainly to calm down itchy skin, as you know. Bites, mossy bites. Cuts, but even superficial bruising or even deep bruising. With the bruising situation, you probably need the strength of a dose like the sport, in all honesty. But yeah,
so you've got the skincare, you've got the sport, you've got the pet care, you've got the chronic pain. What's the 5th one?
Yeah, so the 5th one is certified as a beauty device, and it's called the Photizo Blush, and that's a pale pink colour.
And how long is the dose for on that one?
That is the same level of dose as the skincare model. It's 16 seconds. So if you wanted to get that one, if you're only really interested in the effects for collagen, skin rejuvenation, help with the little lines, and I mean, the thing is, it doesn't just help with the smoothing out the lines. I honestly think that it really helps to give your skin a lovely, healthy glow.
What I have noticed as well with my skin, it feels, because I shoot everywhere. I just sit in bed, I go on my hands, I go all along here, and I've noticed my legs, and I've noticed my skin actually does feel softer.
Yeah.
But I'm using the stronger dose, so that obviously makes no difference.
Well, yeah, so do I. I mean, I do. I do my cat, because she's 19. She's really arthritic. She comes and asks for it. So when I'm in bed, she'll get some zaps, and then I'll do myself. But what I will say is that if people are really struggling with pain, inflammation, and they want to think about using this, there are a couple of the resellers that will do a hire out, try before you buy. But what red light therapy has also been recognised to help with is sleep.
Now,
We can't actually make
go
that.
on to sleep. We've got another question.
Okay.
Oh, wrinkles. What about jowls?
Yeah, well, that's yeah. Anywhere, you know, and the thing is, I have to use it quite comprehensively in the summer because of hay fever. But so I get a double whammy because it helps to calm down all my sinuses, and then I'm also helping with my skin as well. But yeah, jowls, and that's the great thing about having a handheld piece of kit like this, rather than just those masks that you see that are being sold on big e-commerce sites. You wear masks. I find them claustrophobic. I have used them, but I feel that they're claustrophobic. But the thing is, for us girls in the summer, we also want to do all our
we do
the colourage area, and maybe those bits.
I haven't got that far, Ruth. I'm too busy with the face all across here, my legs. Yeah, another thing that's quite interesting, I get hard skin on the because I've had operations on my feet, and my chiropodist, she finds it hilarious. I'm walking on bone, and she comes every 6 weeks. Well, I shoot that every day as well, and the hard skin doesn't build up so much.
Yeah.
I just love it.
When you've got one as strong as you've got, Lorraine, you got the stronger dose. It is versatile because you can still use it for the skin rejuvenation.
I do.
But the great thing is that when you do get any painful issues, like I've been gardening quite a lot in the last couple of weekends, and you come in, my shoulders ache, and I've been fence painting and that sort of thing, and you just use it post, because it is still exercise, after doing any jobs like that where you think, oh yeah, I'm going to feel it tomorrow or the next day. It's usually on day 2, isn't it, where you get the aches and pains, and and it really helps you to recover from all that delayed onset muscle soreness as well.
I honestly think it's an amazing. Now, is there a difference in price throughout the range of them all?
No, they're all the same price.
I know. That's what I found quite bizarre. That's why I like the fact that I've got the higher dosage one. Yes, because they are all the same price.
Yeah.
So how much does a unit cost?
We sell on our website at so us as the distributor, we're called Daintree Health Products.
We will be putting all that underneath.
So we sell at £315 including VAT, and we don't charge delivery. That includes courier delivery.
And for that, you get, I know what you get because I've bought one, but it's nice to say it on nice. So for that, what do you get for your £315?
Yeah, so you obviously get the machine, you get the charger, you get obviously full instructions. The instruction booklet, especially for the medical device ones, they are, I think the team in South Africa, they are trying to make them a little bit more detailed. The trouble is with medical device regulations is, you're so restricted with what you can say. All the clinical claims and that sort of thing. But now they've had the models out for a few years. I think they're making some improvements in the guidance in the user guide. But honestly, they are, they're a point and shoot principle. And the thing is, if you use it with a bit of common sense and you think, oh yeah, I might need to double dose or triple dose, and use it literally surrounding an area of pain and inflammation, and you maybe sign up for one of our you know, we've got a Facebook forum group where we've got a community that are sharing all their experiences or asking questions, or like, has anyone used it for this, you know? And we don't have to even engage with that sometimes, because everybody else is answering the questions for us, because we've got so many people out there using it.
When you've bought one of these units, how, you know, do you have to replace the lights? What do you have to do with it?
No, the LED cluster will last for, well, we've never had any failures unless it's been chewed by a dog.
Like a cat or a dog.
We've had a few, we've had a few naughty puppies that have picked them up and run off.
So there's no replacements. You literally just
the only things that would wear out are over time the rechargeable battery will probably lose its capacity to hold charge. They are designed so that you can still use them when it's plugged into the mains. But when your battery is good, and they are pretty robust, long-lasting batteries, you get about an hour and a half's worth of dose at time with it. The only time the battery depletes is if it's kept in cold temperatures, because some of the animal therapists, they go out to horse yards and that sort of thing in the winter. So if they accidentally leave their machines in their cars overnight when it's really cold, it might well be flat when they come out, even though they thought they would charge it.
So once you've invested the £315, you've actually got it.
Yeah, the thing is, we can get the batteries replaced once they do deplete to a level that it's a bit of a nuisance to have to recharge it, and sometimes the chargers fail because the wires break. But we got replacement chargers on our website. I think they're about £17 for new chargers, or people lose them. Actually, that's a good point. Don't ever try to use a different type of charger with it, because it has to be a 12-volt charger, 12-volt 1 amp. So being a 12-volt means that you can use it when you're out and about, if you've got a motorhome, vehicle, whatever. Great for the people that go out and camp agility events with their animal athletes or husky racing teams and that sort of thing, so they can charge them up in the vehicles. So they're really robust. They last a long time.
I can honestly say I think these are absolutely fantastic, and for £315 you have it in your home, and I am using it all the time. I won't even tell you how much I spend on my face creams, and then how much we spend on having our haircuts and colours and everything else. But to have something like this that is medically approved, and there's loads of research based on it. At the end of the video, Shelley will be making sure that Ruth's website's available where you can buy them, and will you be doing a Facebook page as well? And the Facebook page and everything else you will be able to find below. And Ruth, it is so, so lovely. Now, she's not anemic. She's just come back from Cornwall. It's bizarre. You've got all your yellow background. There's me with all my white. And honestly, this is part of my daily routine.
Well, honestly, that is it. The Photizo for my whole family. We've all got one. Even my elderly auntie, who's she's virtually blind. I mean, we can't make any claims, but she was told that she was going blind. I think I told you the story, didn't I, Lorraine? Because she's got macular degeneration, myopic, and glaucoma. She's lost one eye about 7 years ago, deteriorated really badly. The one eye that she had left, she was told that it was going to go, and it was going really quickly. I managed to catch up with some of the American guys that had got news through from some of the optometry clinics that were using it for macular degeneration, just doing their own studies. That was before this licensed machine came about, and anyway, because of the way I understand how it helps to detoxify the body and you know, help with that repair process and inflammation, I said, well, you know, that's they've said that it could well help. She was using the sport, the same one as you've got, Lorraine, just using it probably about I think she used it every day for about 10 days, and then she uses it about 3 times a week. That was about 6 years ago, you know, and she's still sending emails. She can still use a computer. Now, I mean, obviously she's partially sighted, but she hasn't completely lost her sight. They can't believe it.
And that is a brilliant story to end the interview on. And I know you have got many, many, many more stories.
Oh yeah, it's the animals that are the killer. You know, that the animal stories.
I know. You're talking about badgers and horses. And Ruth, I'd really like to thank you for coming on. And
you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
If Arfi or whatever her name was starts doing on the jowls and it starts working, please can you email me, let me know. Because then I'll be shooting there as well. Then, you know, I'll be spending all my time with my light therapy posts. And Ruth, thanks ever so much for coming on. There will be all the details will be published below when you'll be able to see it. I think it goes up on YouTube. So it's so lovely to see you again. And thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks, Lorraine. Lovely to see you.
Yeah. All right. And you too.